Wife cheated, got pregnant, had her cheating partner's property burned down, and her family mad at her. I have been going out with my girlfriend for 4 years now. My family is quite well off financially, and we are secure. Her family felt embarrassed to be living in a rented property. We don't care or judge someone whether it's a mortgage or rented property. They, however, have been renting for more than 10 years, and they really want to purchase their own house. Since the start of the relationship, my girlfriend has always told me she's working to save up so her dad can buy a house. I really love her, and she's a good girl, very family-oriented, literally like a second mom to me, and I really wanted to marry her, likewise with her. This year, since the start, we've been having non-stop problems. I used to be heavily gang-affiliated also, and I enjoyed drinking a lot, 2-3x a week. Not with girls, just boys that I knew. When my girlfriend was younger, their cousin used to live with them. He is in his high 30s now. He tried inappropriately touching my girlfriend when she was sleeping. At that time, I wasn't in a relationship with her. She was just 12 to 13 years old. She told me her brother knew. I didn't react, and I just ignored this and left it, because the guy was married now, and he wouldn't move like a pedophile again. But then we met each other at my girlfriend's birthday party. When he found out I was in a relationship with her, he started being nice to me and pouring me alcohol at the party. After that, unnecessarily started talking about me, saying that I drink a lot, and I don't go work, and he would keep saying this to my girlfriend's dad, which is his mom's brother. He randomly made it his mission to chat crap about me, and every day, weekly, he would call up and speak to the dad about me, but he lives 1 hour away, and he has no way of actually knowing what he's saying is true or not. Just because I drank on that day. This cousin has a shop and his income is high, and due to UK London home prices being extortion, you need a high income to get a mortgage, as they only give you 4.5x your annual wage. Because of this, my girlfriend's dad trusted him, and gave him the deposit money, and asked him to purchase the house for them. While this is happening, he messaged my girlfriend saying that he keeps trying to purchase the property, however it is not working, and apparently he spoke to an astrologer who has said that he needs to touch, kiss, and give a girl that he is related to a mouth on her boobs and lips, and once he does that, the house will be bought the next day. So he asked her to come to sleep with him in return for the house. I still stayed calm, and I asked her who she had told, as if I take things into my own hand I won't care about breaking the law. She told me she told her brother and mom. They both did nothing. For days later, he popped up to her again asking if she could come to sleep with him. I asked what your brother and mom did. Why don't you tell your dad? She told me they did nothing, and that her dad is an angry guy and will end up doing something stupid. The next day she was meant to stay overnight with me, so what I did is I went with one of my friends and went down to his shop with a mask on, and the plan was to beat him up inside the shop and then go. Since I have a mask on, no one will know who did what, and when she's staying over with me she would tell me what happened, and I would just play along and act surprised. I went inside the shop, and he wasn't there, so I got annoyed, and took the next left, and he was standing there, and he's seen my face now. I went straight up to him and thought, duck it, let me make the most of the situation. I warned him, and I told him I know everything. I said, don't do that, and grabbed him, and pushed him against the wall. I told him I don't want this problem to get big, don't speak about it, leave it, and don't do that crap again. He cried, and then he went inside the shop and got a hammer and came back out. I immediately grabbed the hammer, and he got the recording off that on the CCTV. He sent that to my girlfriend's parents, saying I came and started a problem and left. He laid hands on me, he came with a hammer, he even spoke wrong about your family, so completely chatted crap and made the problem 50x worse and didn't listen. Since that day I've been more or less drinking most days, because my girlfriend stopped talking to me for weeks. I would get upset and angry because I don't gain anything from doing this. I did it all for her and for the right reasons, but in the end, she was told by her parents to break up with me. She was on and off talking, and her family low-key hated me. I got drunk one day and called her brother, swearing at him, calling him out for being like a girl. It's his sister who could have helped her and did something, or his mom. No one did anything, and I went to react, and now my 4-year relationship is downhill. He started swearing back at me, and we both shouted at each other over the phone. Me and her were both going through depression, my hair started falling, I would just stay drinking and not eat anything. After this I got so angry at one point I made some calls while I was drunk, and the next day his shop got burnt, but I got nothing to do with this because I was elsewhere in a shop having a chicken burger, smiley face. I felt really bad for him because apparently he got taken to hospital for carbon monoxide poisoning. As you can imagine, the blame came straight to me, and now the family hated me more than ever, which made things a lot more worse in the relationship. When the incident came on the news, loads of people were commenting things such as the edophile shop got burnt, he deserves it, etc. Upon contacting those people, he bought students alcohol, cigarettes, free chocolate, and tries to have fun with them, and while all of this happens, he's got a wife. He purposely targets Asians because of our strict families. Girls would keep quiet and not mention it to anyone or the police, etc. So I don't care what anyone says. That idiot deserved it. He even lost his alcohol license 2x, and had to put it under my girl's brother's name, and got caught again, and then my girl's brother got taken to court. So I have no remorse for him. During the first 6 months of the relationship, I was with her in the back of the car, and I was just on her phone. She told me I can open anyone's message except for these guys. Obviously, I only want to open that message now. She tried taking her phone, scratching me, and literally ripped my t-shirt off my body in an attempt to hide the messages. I had her phone and thought to myself, the way she is behaving shows she is clearly cheating on me with him. Do I really need to read these messages and just hurt myself more? I chucked her phone back at her, and I dropped her at home. The next day I felt like drinking because that's like my medicine back then. I was talking to her best friend about everything, then we met up, drinking, and we kissed. After that, when I actually read the messages and found out what was going on, I felt bad. I didn't know how to tell her what happened to her best friend. So that was a secret we both kept away from each other for the entire time of the relationship. We were both embarrassed and admitted it was a mistake. So with both these things happening at the same time, she literally completely stopped talking to me, and then called me almost a month or so later. The next day she sent me an email asking me to come to a hotel I went to so we could sort everything out. She told me she was pregnant. But the chances were extremely low as she has an IUD. She swore and promised she got a positive result. We kind of slowly started making up again and things weren't the same, but it was getting somewhat better. When she told me she's pregnant, I told my mom immediately the next day, and my mom said to keep the baby. You shouldn't destroy life. Women are struggling to get pregnant, etc., etc. She came over to my house and said it in front of my parents, and they said, yes, that's fine, don't worry, you can come live with us, we have no problem. So after that, we took the IUD out and made sure she was pregnant, to avoid confusion. She was excited to have the baby, and so was I. I was buying her vitamins, reading books, studying and getting a proper job, reduced drinking, and started going back to the gym. Even told most of my family that my girlfriend is pregnant, and of all sorts. Same time they finally bought the house under the cousin's name, and that really pissed me off because number 1. What is your guarantee that he will give the house back to you guys? 2. If your family stopped talking to me and hates me, why are they still in contact with him? I kept insisting to her to tell her family, but she was really scared. My mom tried contacting them a few times and sending a text asking to meet to discuss something important, which they also ignored. So I told my girlfriend, I want you to tell your family by today, but she didn't. I contacted her dad later that night, who was a bit drunk too, and told him, your daughter's pregnant, and seconds later he is swearing and talking about my parents because he thinks I lied. So I was drunk. I spoke back and defended my family and swore at him too. They thought I was lying and just trying to cause problems, so weeks later I told her to tell her family properly, or I will show them the video of the pregnancy result. Because at this point my parents are trying to get us married, and most of my family knows about me, and they feel marrying while she's evidently pregnant is embarrassing. Whereas with her only her little sister knew, so next day she told her mom over text while she was with me. But it bugged me that her mom didn't even call her, she carried on talking over text as well, so I assumed she still hasn't told her mom, and that her sister is pretending to be the mom and replying. I got annoyed, and a few days later I got the pregnancy result video, and sent it to her mom, called the dad and tried telling him again, but their close relative had passed away that day. Since that day she's been telling me she's going to terminate the baby. It's 12 weeks now. I don't believe that's fair because she clearly only got pregnant after we got my parents' support and took the IUD out. So we brought life into this world for no reason and terminated it, destroying its life for no reason. Her parents and family have been emotionally blackmailing her, threatening to drink poison, and falling on her feet begging her to terminate. As I said, she's a family-oriented girl, and now she wants to terminate. My entire family knows, and I got some crappy long conversations to have. My respect would be gone amongst my family. What's bugging me is that we knew your parents wouldn't like this, and will try to do these emotional things. You have to stay strong, not get brainwashed, and she said okay to do everything, and now literally wants to do the opposite, and get a termination. She's getting shouted at home, every day is called a 403, and desperate, etc. She's depressed. I'm depressed thinking about all of this. 15% of my hair has gone gray. She's saying she's willing to register to marry me without anyone knowing, but she doesn't want the baby. She's only thinking about her family because she told me she really wants to keep the baby. I thought her family can't accept me because they risk losing the house, so I spoke to lawyers who can draw up an agreement where the cousin will only own 1% of the property and their family will own the remaining. So if he does try moving funny one day, taking the house and leaving, they can win against him in court. I told her to speak to her parents and get that signed because if his genuine intention was just to buy the house and help them, this wouldn't affect him in any way. She's not listening or doing anything. The family completely hates me because of all the problems. They think her life will be ruined with me, and they're literally doing everything they can to ruin this thing between us. The cousin has also said he apparently paid some boys that are going to stab me. I just laughed lol. Because of what happened to his shop and everything, their dad would call me a criminal, but then what they're doing is a crime also, but I don't hear anyone call him a criminal. I have told my girlfriend if she decides to terminate the baby, I no longer want to be with her anymore. What do you guys think I should do? I'm going to be sharing the replies with her also, so nothing biased. I just want good opinions. I have fixed up my life now, and not doing the dumb crap things I was doing before, like drinking every day. I studied past an exam, now starting work next week. Which are all the steps I did for the baby. I was shocked when I found my cheating wife's secret about after-party consequences early in our marriage. I met my 23M wife, 23F, almost 5 years ago. We got married a little over 2 years ago. We were an excellent match and always loved being together and doing the things we loved. I had never been so sure about anything in my life when I decided to marry her. We had been living in a town about 4 hours from where we originally met while I was working full-time, and she was going to school full-time and working part-time. I was presented with an opportunity to transfer within my company and move back to the town we had met. This had been something we had wanted for our future, but did not expect it to come this soon in our lives. We didn't have very long to think about it because my work needed an answer in a few days. We decided to go through with it, however we still had a lease going at our current home for about 3 more months. So we decided that she would stay there until the lease was up, and then move up with me afterwards. This most definitely tested our relationship and made things more difficult, but from what I could tell, we were making things work. Finally she was able to move back up with me. Everything went smooth and we were finally settled in. For some reason it seemed like everything changed. She was extremely irritable, and we fought all the time. I know there were parts where I could have done better as well, but overall almost every one of these fights ended up being my fault. She made me feel like I was the worst husband in the world, and that no matter how hard I tried to make her happy it always backfired on me. She had gone down to only a few classes at the college here, and started working full-time instead. She always seemed very depressed, and always seemed to be hiding things from me. I'm not really the type to snoop and look through people's phones, but there was most definitely something she was hiding from me there. She had changed her password and deleted my fingerprint. We had always been very trustworthy with each other and didn't have anything to hide, so this was a huge red flag for me. I more or less brushed it off, but it still bothered me a lot. A little over a year ago she decided she wanted to move to a city 2 hours from here so she could finish her degree faster. It was very bad timing considering I had also just found another job with much better pay and hours that I could not let go. So I helped her find an apartment and moved her down there. We hadn't been in the best place anyways, so my thought was maybe that the distance would make our hearts grow fonder. I traveled down there every other week, and she came here whenever she could with her busy schedule. Things were still not going well, and they didn't seem to be getting any better no matter how hard I tried. She traveled up here at the end of December last year and told me that we need to talk. We finally did the last day she was here. Basically, she told me that she was unsure of our relationship and where it was going, but did not directly tell me she wanted a separation or divorce. A few days after she had gone back home, I drove down to her after I got off work to talk to her and try to save our marriage. I didn't tell her I was coming, but she called me when I was about 15 minutes away. When I told her I was almost there, and she told me to turn around and go home. I was devastated and hung up the phone, not knowing what to do or expect. She called me back and said she could meet me, but she had plans with her friends and can't talk very long. When I asked her if I should just meet her at her apartment, she said no, and that we need to meet in a parking lot somewhere else. I confronted her and asked what she was hiding, and she threw it back at me. So I met her in this parking lot where we sat and both cried. I asked her what she wanted and she told me she wasn't sure, but she doesn't think we can make this work. She said she wanted different things now and couldn't give me what I wanted. I told her that I would go out of my way and change to keep her in my life. She left me there and went to her friend's place. I drove the 2 hours back home crying the whole time. We talked on the phone the next day, and I told her I needed an answer. I want to hear her say that she wants a divorce if that's really what she was pushing for. Sure enough, she finally said it. But I couldn't accept her reason for leaving. Something else must have happened. She insisted that was what it was and that she wanted to focus on herself. I pushed and pushed, trying to get closure, and asked her many times to tell me if she cheated. I told her that would give me more closure than what she's telling me now, but she wouldn't budge. It took me about 4 months to start moving on with my life. I was finding happiness again, doing things that I loved, and even started dating a little bit. The thought of her being gone still bothered me. We actually even talked about once a week and were civil with each other. There still didn't seem to be any hope of us getting back together anytime soon, but at least we were actually able to talk to each other without issues. She knew I was dating, I knew it bothered her, but I know at the same time she was happy for me. The car she was driving was also in my name. It needed a repair, and it was going to be too expensive for her to take it to a shop, so I agreed to fix it to help her out. She brought it to me about a week ago, I fixed it, and we talked about our relationship and where we went wrong. It was a calm discussion with no issues, but at the end she started to get upset and said, "I made mistakes that I'm not proud of." This was not something she had said before, so it concerned me, and made me even more suspicious of her cheating. I didn't want to fight, so I left it alone. We ended up going to breakfast together and actually had a good time. I had really missed her. She went back home and that was that. The following morning she texted me that she had a good time with me. Then she said she was confused and unsure about us. So I asked her why she didn't want to tell me about her mistakes. She told me that I had no idea how bad it was and that she had already been punished enough by it. So I kept pushing and pushing, trying to get it out of her. I couldn't just drop it at this point as my mind was making so many assumptions. She asked me what I was assuming. I told her that I know that she cheated, I just don't know where, when, and with who basically. She wouldn't really say much. I kept pushing. She said she was getting sick talking about it, and that we need to talk about it later since she was in class. She told me to assume the worst, and I would probably be right, so I asked her if she got pregnant, and she didn't say anything. She told me we just need to talk later. A few hours later she called me. I asked her if I was right about her getting pregnant. She said yes. I asked if she got in termination. She said yes. She told me it happened 2 summers ago when I moved back up here, only a few months after we had gotten married. She said she got drunk and went home with a guy. The rubber broke, she took Plan B but still ended up pregnant. Everything in me wanted to know who it was, but at the same time I knew that it wasn't worth messing up my own life because of him. I was so angry at her and didn't know what to do. So many things started to make sense, and I realized that all the hard times we had in the last 2 years were not because of me being a bad husband, they were because she was hiding this from me, and the guilt was overwhelming her. She couldn't say anything else besides that she was sorry. She told me she had been suicidal because of it and wished she had never told me. I'm the type of person that doesn't like to hold grudges, and honestly, I hope that I can forgive her for doing this to me. I also understand that this was extremely difficult for her to go through as well, so I'm not trying to make it seem like I'm being selfish here. But I was finally finding happiness again, and she hit me with this. This is the woman I fell in love with and wanted to spend the rest of my life with. Obviously, in order to forgive her, I will need to make sure we have everything out on the table. It will take time and patience to be able to begin to trust her again. I truly want to be with her again, but I want to avoid any possible issues that will arise in our current lives. She still has another year and a half of school to finish, so we wouldn't be able to live together given my current work situation. I know I still need time to process this and to try and think of which direction I want to go. Do I actually forgive her for this horrible thing and start my life with her again? Or do I go on living my life trying to find something new? I noticed an unfamiliar car parked in my spot. My jaw dropped when I entered the house and saw with whom my wife was doing it. It was 2010, and I was in training to be a EMT. I was 27 years old at the time, and wife of 2 years was 3 years younger. She worked on base as a career planner for Marines and specialized in helping Marines get employment. She helps them set up resumes and offers classes for soft skills. Our schedules are the same but different days off. I was promised by my job that after I get a certain amount of training done, I would be able to switch days with other trainees if they agree. Forgetting the scheduled switch, I went to work on my day off. Me and my buddies at the job laugh it off and shot the crap for an hour. I was there, so why not? It took 20 minutes to get home, but when I did, I noticed a Dodge Challenger parked in my spot. There was more than enough visitor parking, so what the heck? Came to my apartment door quietly to surprise my wife, and heard yelling coming from our open bedroom door. I paused, but then again we watched Triple X in the bedroom, so I was thinking, wow, I can catch her solo, and embarrassed her. I walked slowly to the bedroom, but as I got closer the yells sounded familiar, but not video familiar. I came to the threshold of the door and froze. Only to see my wife getting 360 pile driver by some diesel jar head. Then flipped on the bed and jacked hammered. I couldn't move, and 15 seconds later my wife looked towards the door and gasped. The guy stopped shocked and pushed her away from him. No homo, but when he pulled out I noticed he wasn't wearing protection. My wife angrily asked what I was doing home. I stood in the threshold of the door and looked at the ground silent. The man put his pants on, grabbed his shirt, and made to the door. I thought to myself, I could fight this a-hole and get arrested plus lose my job or let it go. I stood at the door as he stopped, waiting for me to let him pass. I looked at him, he looked at me with a mildly concerned look, and I stepped aside. When he passed me he stopped, took another look at me and said, "Man, thanks, but it is what it is." Then left. My wife looked at me pissed and said, "You weren't supposed to be here, today is my day off." I looked at her and said, "Every day is your day off from here on out." Update. I felt real cold, confused, and like such a crap head. I thought I was doing everything right. I went downstairs and seen the man in his car. He was on the phone. I couldn't believe he was still here. I got real angry and said, "Duck it." Went upstairs and grabbed one of my bowling balls to smash something. My wife jumped in front of the door and blocked me. She started yelling, "Don't, he's leaving." I remember looking at her and feeling sick. How could you protect this man? I pushed past her and the car was gone. I slammed the ball in the street and finally broke down crying. Yes, fellas, I cried. Everything I had was gone, and the man who took it from me is gone. No answers, no revenge. I called my sister, and it's weird how women just know what's going on. Goes to show how naive I was about things. My wife started crying and said, "We should talk before you talk to your family." I ignored her and left. After a couple of months living with my sister, I got my own place and started doing nursing. And because I had EMT training, I was allowed to work nursing during my schooling. I met a lot of awesome women in the program, but the thought of a relationship made me weak. Also, during my divorce, my wife found my classes. She would try to run up talking about our business to make the female students jealous. It sucked and violated the restraining order. Fast forward 8 months and our divorce was almost finalized. The crazy thing is, the man who was sleeping with my wife got my contact info and reached out to me. He was getting discharged from the service and wanted to be a cop. However, my wife was stalking him and it was getting serious. He asked to meet with me. I needed closure, so we met near base. Sure enough, it was him. He showed up with another service member buddy of his. I didn't know how to feel, but he told me my wife was serving him for emotional distress. I seriously was about to laugh, because karma is a witch and he's getting his. I told him that has nothing to do with me, and I could give 2 ducks. He said he would help with the divorce so I wouldn't have to pay alimony. Told him not sure how that would work, and considering where we were with the divorce, don't think it would help. What the hell do you want from me anyways, I asked. He said if I can get him a written letter signed to his command claiming she's stalking him, divorce blah blah blah. I said, and you guessed it. Nope. He got angry and before he could utter a word, I told him to go to hell. You ruined my life and destroyed my family. I hope she buries you. This guy was unbelievable, asking me for help after what he did. I left and called my wife. She didn't answer, so I left her a voicemail. Told her that I don't know what she's up to, but your little man toy and I met. If she hands out my information again, I'm reporting violations on our restraining order and for handing out my information. I was dating a nurse from my program and she would help. Kind of tacky, but what could I do? Fast forward to now, and I am doing well. Have a 1-year-old son and his mother is amazing. We just tied the knot. Looked on my ex-wife's social media and she appears to be doing fine. She's been traveling and modeling all around until COVID. Thought of reaching out to her, but some things are better left to rest.